The crypto market is a total bloodbath. Should you be worried? Or is this really just the pullback that Paul has been saying we needed before the bigger run? Well, Paul joins us today, so we'll look at this. But if you follow the last couple of weeks, Paul said most likely a correction was coming, and the charts were showing it. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. If you, like me, came to crypto because you realized the potential for life-changing gains over a 4 to 8 year period, and you're looking for discussion on becoming a solid, unshakable, savage crypto investor, like a Navy SEAL of crypto investing, you're in exactly the right place and the right family, the Rainmaker family. The reason I created this channel is because, like you, I was once new to crypto 7 years ago, and back then I was looking for a crypto channel and a group that understood crypto as an investment and discussed important things like investment cycles and projects and the pros and cons of those projects, the risks, the guess the upside if it came together well. And I didn't find that, so we created it. And I say we because it's a whole family of Rainmakers now. You can see some of them in the chat. You'll see them definitely in the private Discord. And yeah, do note, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself, and Paul is an investor in many, many things. So go ahead and make it rain on that like button as we welcome Paul to the show. Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
Brilliant, as always. Always look forward to it. Look forward to the picks, which we got very late today. So I'm going to be seeing them for the first time, which I actually quite like, to be honest, because it allows me to give you a kind of instant view. When you're reading charts, people have very different methods, but I think your first initial view is usually the right view, and then you end up talking yourself out of it for other reasons. So yeah, so some good picks in there, I'm sure. And markets are looking extremely interesting. There's a big diversion between the equity markets and what's happening in crypto. As you quite rightly said at the top of the show, we needed a correction, and it came at a perfect time when the ETF was announced, which is, buy the rumors, sell the news, sell the fact, as it's been known. And that's why you have to be watching charts, watching a show like this each week to see when we get a build up towards something like this. Because if you're just following the news as it comes, you might just jump in right at the wrong moment and then end up exiting a position just at the wrong time, which I think is what's going to happen, unfortunately, to a few people who got in late. So we can have a look where I think the Bitcoin chart will go to in a moment, but that's kind of where we are at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting how the charts were showing a needed correction, right? And charts just give you probabilities. So it's like it doesn't tell you the future, but just probabilities. And sure enough, a big correction happened. It was kind of needed. Things needed to settle. We had this big run up with the expectation of the ETF launching. And there was always this chance that when the ETF launched, there would just be so much demand that it would cause a big green candle. And if it did that, it would cause all kinds of additional FOMO in. But the probabilities of that happening were much smaller than the probabilities of a big pullback, which is what we got. And especially with the news, like the incentives. So often one of my mentors in business would say incentives dictate behavior. And so with Grayscale, there's been a lot of people that have funds tied up in it. And because the fees are so high, they have an incentive to go ahead and tax loss harvest and take a loss on their position, because many of those bought into the Grayscale trust when Bitcoin was 60,000. So they can go ahead and realize a loss, exit out of Grayscale with the higher fees, and 1 month later they can roll it into another ETF that has lower fees. And some of that money will not come back in. Like some of that money is FTX's bankruptcy. The attorneys managing that, selling $1 billion worth of Bitcoin that for, whatever bankruptcy proceedings, and probably to distribute to someone through those bankruptcy proceedings. And so maybe that doesn't come back into crypto, but that's kind of the FUD causing the news, or the story behind why the price are going down. But this correction was needed. And that story might be the story right now. But when I look at the actual numbers and how much of Bitcoin is being taken off the markets by these ETFs, I see a huge supply crunch coming, that there won't be enough supply. And even if the amount of demand goes down, like usually when ETFs first launch, there's a whole lot of demand. It kind of tapers down and goes lower. It hasn't been tapering down, but let's just imagine it does. Still, there's going to be a massive Bitcoin supply crunch coming, especially with the halving coming up, because there's a lot of funds already in places that buy their Bitcoin directly from the miners. But now the amount of Bitcoin that the miners can provide will go down by half. And already some Bitcoins are being picked up already by these ETFs. Like, we're going to run into a supply crunch. And when that happens, the price just jumps. And then when the price jumps, I don't know exactly what Wall Street will do, but Main Street people, that's when all of a sudden they get really interested in crypto. And that's when the main FOMO starts. And that's all ahead of us.
Yeah, the interesting point with all of this is that the Bitcoin ETF is a massively bullish event. It's hugely bullish. It's fantastic. It's great for crypto, and it's great for all the people who've been saying that it's all the naysayers have been saying it's just used. Bitcoin is just used for, nefarious means and all that. It makes it official. It makes it like, well, actually, it's been approved, and there we go. It's a proper product, and that you can trade it without thinking that there's something, inverted commas, wrong with it. Now, it doesn't guarantee it's going to go up, but the more you see markets, the more you see things repeat, and the more things repeat, the more you get an inkling, and nothing's ever 100%, but you get an inkling that something's happening again. And if you think about, when you look at a chart, you can see what's going on, but there's no emotion. But if you feel the emotion week to week as to what was going on, you knew that in the lows, there was a lot of FUD. There was a lot of people getting out of Bitcoin. There were a lot of people saying, this is it, it's going to zero, waste of time. And STX proved it and all that stuff. And then it took a while to turn around. And then we had that upward trend that was absolutely massive. It really took off. And it was the best performing asset of 2023. Considering what people were saying about it before, that was an amazing event. So you put those things together and think, well, how is it and why is it outperforming so much compared to the other markets? And the only reason could have been that there's something that we don't know about. Of course, along comes the ETF and gives you that reason. So within technical analysis, you're looking at what the market knows and what the market doesn't know. And once everybody and their dog spot, as it says, knows that there's a Bitcoin ETF and it's been approved, it's no longer news. And therefore, you can't buy on that news. But that doesn't mean that the outlook is negative. It just means that those short positions, those, not short as in short the market, but those positions that came in very late will be buying just at the wrong time, arriving at the party just as it's ending, and it might seem like it's the greatest party ever, but it could be coming to a conclusion, and then it just needs time for whatever, a bit of a rest, a bit of a, that's how markets operate, and then start again. So that's kind of an analogy for the market cycles. And if you just imagine what somebody might do on that news, who's not following it day to day, they'll just look at it and go, my God, that's really bullish. How could you short the market? And that's why we've said many times, being a contrarian is usually the most reliable signal. It's not easy, though. It's very hard. And that's for that reason. The market does things to make you do the opposite. And that's why you have to get comfortable with not being in the crowd, not being with everybody else. And I will say that when we do hit the top, it's going to feel like this times 10. It's going to feel absolutely crazy to be getting out, but that will be the time. So we've got that to look forward to, and I don't think we're there yet.
It's fun. It is hard, though, like doing the opposite of what everyone wants to be doing. And so when prices go down like this, I've been using this as an opportunity to buy. And specifically, I've been buying a few projects, particularly one that I bought a whole bunch more of, and I'm really happy about. I was buying more Akomi. And the
Okay.
FUD levels on Akomi are like at epic highs. And I just love counter trading the emotional trend, right? There's going to be another time, like you said, when the emotional trend is, why would you sell? Are you crazy? It's never going to stop going up. And that's not true either. Like, right now people are worried because it is at some major support levels only, and it might have broken through. It didn't stay very long there, but it is right testing that support. And people are like, what if it breaks through? And in my mind, I'm like, please, Blake, break through it. Please get even cheaper, because I like the long term on this one. If it got cheaper, sure, that messes up the charts. Oh, but I would love that opportunity. So they're like, what if it breaks through it? And I'd be like, oh, we just had Christmas, but I'll take Christmas again. Because
well, I love your enthusiasm. I mean, I mean, I look at that as a technician, and I look at the chart, and I worry. I think, my God, where's this going to go? But that's because I'm not looking at the fundamentals. So yeah, I mean, that is a very unusual kind of approach from my perspective. But it's certainly the difference between what I've seen when things go down is if people are hoping that it goes up, not sort of, having it as part of their strategy. So part of their strategy is, look, people are going to FOMO about a project, therefore it will get pushed lower. But I'm very confident, as much as anybody can be confident on anything, that they're letting something go very cheap, then that's a strategy. But if you're just buying something because you own it and it's getting cheaper and you're hoping to make your money back, that is a recipe for disaster, or can be. You have to be very careful between the two. What is strategy, thought out, expected, and what is just, look, it's gone down, so I'm buying more just because I hope it will go up. And the best example of why you shouldn't do that, if you haven't done your homework, is what happened to Luna. So that's happened in many markets. I've seen it happen a lot of the times. I might get it wrong. If I was bullish near the top, it will look like a bullish chart. But if it starts to go down, you can look at some support levels. But that's because I'm looking at it from a technical point of view. I need to see stabilization and a reversal before I will go long of anything, or call it higher, or expect that it will go up. So, but I also accept that things get very cheap that shouldn't be, because sentiment swings too far in the wrong direction. And you see that with virtually every product. You see it with everything, bullish and bearish. So it's really interesting. And nobody would ever say that you're saying, 100% that it's going to go back up. But it's also very unusual to be almost pleased that it's going down, because you're getting it at a more bargain price.
Yeah, it's funny. And it's just because I'm so familiar with the project. You're dead right that it has to do with research, right? And Luna's fundamentals, the company actually underlying it, there's some mechanisms that broke that meant that, nobody was going to trust in the future.
Yeah.
And it went to as close to zero as crypto companies ever can on their token, right? It just printed as people cashed out their UST back to Luna in infinite number of Luna, and it became completely worthless. Yeah. And so it is research based, right? It's kind of like, I was giving this analogy the other day about different ways you can do crypto. Now, one of the things is you invest in many, many markets. And so you have this ability to, when crypto is bad, there are other markets doing great, and you can turn your attention there. And so you have this sweet spot of where you invest, where the markets have bottomed. You wait till it then is turning around, going the other side. And there's always some market doing that. Yeah. And that's why your method for what you're looking at, that is the way to go, because you can't do deep research in so many sectors.
Yeah.
If you get really good at price reading, there's always charts that are interesting in different sectors, because like crypto has 1 year that's a total boom, and then it has 2.5 years that are like massive bust. And so it's a bad time to be like trying to have your money go up for those 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So like my method works really well for crypto, which is research. And unfortunately, I can't research all the projects. I miss some of the projects out there. There's so many.
Oh, it's
So people are
thousands,
like,
tens
oh,
of
you
thousands,
missed
maybe.
this. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like raindrops falling in the sky and you have a bunch of buckets open. And it's like, oh, I missed a bunch. Yes,
Yeah.
you're going to miss a bunch. But like, you don't have to catch all of them to do extremely well. You just have to identify some companies. So I think of it like crypto is this casino that is broken, and broken because generally in a casino, the odds are like 48.5% that you're going to win more than you lose. And so over time, you're going to lose. In crypto, there's a time period that if you start during the bear market and then you're buying for the bull market, that the odds for you are about 65%. But if you use research to identify the machines that are like have higher payouts and have higher percentages, you can pull that slider all the way up to like 90% chance that you will win more than you'll lose on these different projects. So depending on the project, somewhere between 85 to even 97%. There's no guarantees it'll work out because sometimes things collapse for reasons you can't understand. But that's what I use research for. And then it's like, okay, the odds go in your favor, but not only are your odds good to win more than you lose, when you win in this casino, you don't just double your money. You often get 10x's or 100x's or 500x's, which is the kind of multiples you don't get in a casino, and you don't get these kind of odds in a casino, which is why I can like never go gamble, because I was like, why would I gamble? I can just invest in crypto where I can stack the odds in my favor during the right time periods and just wait. And I'm cool to wait. And so with Ecomi, it's like, I know this machine is a great machine. Like the team behind it is fantastic. They generate tons of monthly revenues. They have some of the best intellectual property. It's just the digital collectibles narrative is out of the crypto spotlight. Most other channels, in fact, almost all the big channels are not talking about them at all. So it's just out of narrative. And then all of a sudden it will come back into narrative. And so, I was talking to a friend about it 2 weeks ago, and he was really worried about the price. And I said, let me ask you, if they were on some additional exchanges, might their price be higher? And he's like, yeah, it might be. And I said, what? It'd probably be about 2x at where it's at. And he's like, yeah, that sounds about right. And I was like, let me ask you, is that high enough you would then be taking profits on it? And he said, well, no, because I think they'll do much better than that. Exactly. So let me ask you, would you rather the price stay really cheap in the meantime, because not high enough, it still wouldn't be high enough to sell? Wouldn't you rather it be as cheap as possible in the meantime so that you can load up more, waiting for that time period where digital collectibles comes back in the narrative? And even if they're not even on an additional exchange, the project absolutely goes crazy, and then it's time to sell. And he's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, this cheap is a good thing. But it is hard when people are new to see it that way, because they don't trust that it will turn around, because they haven't seen how these patterns play out. And it's just because they're newer. And I don't know, some of it is, this is what I'm particularly good at, which is pattern recognition. And then having 7 years in this and 20 years prior in real estate patterns, which follow the same patterns, they're just slower, is kind of helped me. Like, so my trust that Ecomi is going to do well, I would give it a 97% chance that it's going to go up massively in the coming year. Cool.
Yeah.
Might be wrong. There's 3% chance company falls apart, disaster, all my money, all this additional money I'm buying goes to zero. I used to go to casinos all the time. And then I quit once I got into crypto. Awesome.
Well, blackjack as a casino game, they have a 2% advantage, which is against a rookie player. And if you're a good player, they'll have a 0.5% advantage. So that goes to show quite how fine their advantage is. But if you put a lot of money through that system, what they end up with is profit. So they're playing the probabilities over the long term, which again it's very different. I've always described trading and gambling as two very different things. With a gamble's like a lottery ticket. There's no skill involved. You're just hoping that it will go the right way. But with trading, over time, there is definitely ways when you see that the market has given you an advantage, or where there's more chance of a turn or more chance of it moving higher. And you can see that happening both technically, fundamentally, putting all the cycles together. And one of the things I was going to come back to on what you were saying about the cycles is, if you look at lots of different markets, you can see when they're all synchronizing. So during a big bull market, everything synchronizes, and everything will synchronize to the downside in a bear market. So even if you're not, excuse me, trading some of these other markets, it's a good idea just to keep an eye on them anyway. And wherever you're from, whatever country you're from, just remember that your pension, whether it's put in by yourself or by the government, that is linked to what the stock market is doing. So it's worthwhile just keeping an eye on that and cross-referencing it to what they say in the media, because you'll find that they're talking about recession in the US, they're talking about recession in the UK. Have you seen the chart of the S&P? Have you seen the charts of these markets? They are storming ahead. The chance of recession is there isn't going to be a recession. It's like absolute nonsense. So it's very interesting. That's again why I use charts. But we will look at Akomi, and I might have a few more things to say about it. I would like it to synchronize, or at least respond to some of the other cycles that are going on. Bitcoin moved up, and then people move into altcoins. So it would be nice to see some form of response there. That's where I get a little bit concerned, but I've no doubt it's giving, if you're, well, I say I've no doubt. I'd need to see it turn around before I feel comfortable. But I hear exactly what you're saying. There are times when things are just very high probability and worth the risk, and that's what you're saying with Akomi, and we will see.
Yeah, totally. I just want to give a shout out to Bill Gardner, working on 10 million more OMI as we speak. Yeah, I bought 12.5 more million OMI. I was just like scooping it up. Cool. Let's jump to the charts. We're first going to look at Ronin, which is one I think we've only looked at once before. I'm pretty familiar with Ronin because Ronin was built by Axie Infinity to solve a problem. So Axie Infinity used to trade their stuff on the ETH marketplace. And then when DeFi summer hit in 2020, the prices to use and trade things on ETH went to astronomical prices, which killed your ability to sell any of your Axie Infinity stuff, because a lot of the stuff was trading for $3 or 30 cents or $100, and ETH transaction fees went up to like $60. So it killed your ability to sell anything from Axie Infinity stuff. And they then built their own blockchain to then move it over to, and they moved over everything onto Ronin, which they could, had much lower fees and only had their stuff on it. And so they've since developed Ronin, kept Ronin going as like their blockchain that they're going to use for gaming in general. And Axie Infinity is still, my understanding, is a very profitable game. And they're using those funds to further develop Axie, but also to develop other games. And so Ronin recently just went absolutely crazy. And I was like, dang it, I missed that 20-cent price. And went all the way to 232, but I do not chase those kind of green candles. I'm just a little bit bummed I missed that bottom price, or anywhere near that bottom price. What do you see it doing now?
Yeah. Did we ever look at it? I don't remember looking at it.
We did look at it just once, but it was quite a while ago. I think it actually might have been when it was still falling tremendously. So way back 2022, when the prices were falling, like literally maybe even May 2022.
Okay.
It had recently launched. It was going through vesting problems and stuff. Yeah. And the bear market, usually the price will fall off a cliff like that. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, downward trend. You can see what was going on here. There were these lower highs that were coming in. We've got an inverse head and shoulders. That was a very important point here, because at that point if the bear market was going to continue, it should have made another lower high and then broken this support. It went through it a bit there, but when things are thin and thinly traded, you can give it a bit of leeway. But it didn't. It went straight up, and this was the first sign, obviously, the end of this bear market. Now, what's interesting about this is you've got a higher low here. You've also got a key resistance point that it just went straight through here. So we're looking at the history to think, how have people been trading it? Where are the positions? Where are they likely to think about getting out? There was some consolidation here on the way down. So remember, most people buy. So they were probably buying around here, which is why it's come back here and had a little consolidation again. So it's mirrored it. That would indicate that that they might want to take some profits here. And then, of course, we don't have any more history because it had to start somewhere. But it's an interesting chart. It's actually doing extremely well given that everything is correcting as well. So I have to be a buyer of it. Now, that doesn't mean it won't correct, because I do feel broadly, as we were saying at the top of the show from last week or 2 weeks ago, that we're in a corrective phase. So that makes me slightly cautious. But I want to see in this corrective phase where the money's just going to come out of Bitcoin and go into some of the altcoins, or whether it's just going to come out of everything. Now, I accept that there will be some differences between projects, and it just will take a bit of time to see how everything's responding. My feeling is that everything should correct, but this is definitely outperforming, and I like to see that. Personally, for me, outperformance is a good sign, and I try to go with it. So it looks like a buy. I think it's reasonable to allow for a correction back to this $1.43 area as part of the strategy, because that was the breakout point. Often in corrections, market will come back to significant support. And from a set and forget type trade, as long as it's above this line, which marks the long-term trend line, the long-term upward trend line from now, then I'd be happy to hold a position in it. So that's putting a very long-term hat on, because it could take a year to get back to this level, unless obviously something goes terribly wrong. But it would be below there that I would decide to get out. So position sizes would be adjusted accordingly to allow for that sort of correction. Just a couple of things I'm noticing on the chart. Lots of volume up here before the correction came, and then no volume at all down here, which I don't know if that's a mistake or whether there was, for some reason, it just wasn't printed there, but no volume there. And then, lots of activity here. So I prefer to see good activity. Volume has been coming down. Well, actually, it depends really where you're calling it from, because that was a spike there, which indicated the top. But that trouble is, there are times when you get a very high volume print and you don't know whether it's a data mistake or whether it's actually there. But generally speaking, volume's been going up. So there's clearly a lot of what I would say heat on this. So I would allow for correction for sure. But it's doing well. So I can see why you want to look at it.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely at a wait point, and I just want to wait till I feel like the price is juicy. There's so many things that have just been punished that I love the long-term potential, that I just can't buy it at these prices. I'm a little bit sad because their market cap, I mean, this pattern is a beautiful double bottom. So it's got this nice rounded bottom here, started to build some momentum, went up, corrected back down, came not quite as low as before. I mean, this is exactly what a double bottom looks like. Didn't stay there for all that long, though, before really as blockchain gaming. So Alex Becker came in, started doing videos again, covering blockchain gaming, and he makes really articulate, funny, fun arguments, and got a lot of people excited about blockchain gaming. And then some other major influencers covered blockchain gaming, and I really think it was an influencer-led pump. And so, yeah, Ronin is one of the ones that really benefited from it. So I'm just not going to buy it after that kind of action. I'm sad I missed it here, because the the market cap would have been 1/5 of where this at. And this market cap for this project is really not that bad. I just can't buy after those big green candles, but 672 million for Ronin is not a bad market cap. So I'd just like to see it come down before. I don't usually buy a lot of things with market caps this high. At 1/4 this high or 1/5 this high, boy, that was a really juicy price for Ronin. And I just missed it. There's so many things. There's a lot of things I didn't miss. This was one that I did miss. And so it's like you can't be in everything anyway. But yeah, great suggestion. Let's jump to the next one. Let's look at Manta.
Yeah, so I was just getting a chart up of Manta as you were speaking, and what we can see here is not very much data at all. So this is back to one of those ones where I think we've got to be careful unless it's on an exchange somewhere else. I couldn't find it on CoinTrader Pro. There was nothing there. But on CoinMarketCap, I've got this chart, but it's just a few days old. So I wouldn't mind a bit more information on it. I mean, judging by this short-term chart, it looks pretty good. It's breaking out. We've had this range. But bearing in mind that's considering it's all the data, it's not really very much. So I would be very cautious of this other than perhaps a short-term trade, which might see it squeeze higher. Do you know any more about it at all?
Yeah, so it recently launched. I'm going to share the website because this is going to help us get a feel for it. So innovation seems to be speeding up, and one of the challenges is like integrating different things together. And so one of the technologies that's come out is there's ZK snarks and CK rollups and some different ways to kind of validate that things are correct while keeping the speed of your blockchain fast. So Manta Pacific is the first Ethereum virtual machine equivalent ZK application platform that is scalable and secure through Celestia and Polygon ZK EVM. So it looks like it can integrate with Polkadot, Polygon, Celestia, all these, which means it will also work with ETH. And so it recently launched. I don't chase into projects. Now, as the bull market heats up, sometimes this isn't a bad place to get in if you really like it. It is already instantly listed on Binance, KuCoin, Bybit. And so it's a project that has significant backing by major players. And the market cap's already 777 million. It could go to like billions in the short term, or it could just start falling off a cliff. And so I almost never buy this early on something unless I really know tons about it. And so I have an idea where it will run to before it then pulls back. Is the bull market really hits, what you'll find is all these gems that we've been buying for the last 2 years, well, they'll all be way, way, way higher. They're no longer a good deal. It's not worth buying at that point. In fact, you'll be selling at that point, and you'll be scrounging around looking for what's still a good deal. And sometimes recent launches, things that are just launching, are a good deal in that first week or 2 weeks as they absolutely shoot to the moon before they then pull back. So we're still in a part of the phase where there are good deals everywhere around. And so I'm not going to chase into Manta because the probabilities that it runs up some and then pulls back, like usually some kind of pullback will happen pretty early. Everyone's talking about it because it just launched. So for me, it's definitely a wait. I'm just not going to like FOMO into it or try to load up when I don't have a good enough probability of it doing well from here.
Yeah, for me, broadly speaking, I need price history. So just go back to it. Yeah, I need price history before I can buy something, and there is a risk. I mean, you can do fundamental research on things, and I think that's the only time when you have a disadvantage as a chartist, and you have to perhaps use something else that's in its space as a proxy that maybe has a bit more history. So But even then, it may not work out exactly the same. All one can do is look at the short-term price action and then have a short-term outlook until it's formed a longer-term trend. But it does look like it's trying to squeeze. But yeah, I would be very cautious.
Yeah. Good suggestion. Let's look at our next one, which is ICP.
Yeah. ICP. Yeah, we did look at this again. So this is one that we have discussed a few times actually. Now we were talking about this $15 level, weren't we, and how that should be resistance. And I can't remember exactly what I said last time, but hopefully it was something on the lines of this needs a correction because everything has been correcting or needed to correct, and it seems to have done that. I would suggest it probably needs a little bit more. I mean, at one point that might have been triangular, but it's just too big, really. I think this as a continuation pattern is just a little bit too volatile. So what I'm looking for is when the market pauses, it should have a very compressed range, and then when it looks like the market's going to change trend, you have slightly bigger swings, and that's kind of what we saw here. So for me, it's long term. I do like it because it's formed a base and it's going up, and this is a really sharp move. But I think it might actually have to come back towards $8 before we go back up again. So it's a wait for the moment. But if you kind of separate the long term and the short term, I think long term it will go up, but short term, personally for me, I wouldn't want to buy more here. I'd rather wait for a correction. For it to become potentially a bit cheaper. I don't even mind chasing if it breaks through and holds through $15 if everything else is looking good and the macro position supports it. So I think it will eventually do that. I mean, the probability of this suggests that it will, but for the moment, I would be looking for a correction. So that's why it's a wait.
Yeah, I agree. There we go. I like ICP. It's outside the price range of what's interesting, though. When it bottomed, we covered this, and I said, wow, this price is amazing. So the price went to $3, and I was like, gosh, at $3, anywhere near $3, and it went a little bit below, I said ICP is a steal of a deal. And though it's outside the price range I normally look at this is going to do really, really well. And I can't buy it at 11 because number one, the market cap is so high, and that doesn't mean it can't do well from here. For some people that have massive amount of funds, they just want to be able to load up into something like ICP, which they can buy directly from Coinbase, or if they're international, they can load up on Binance. There's tons of volume on it, and they can just park $5 or $10 million in it. And if it goes up 5x or 10x, for them, that's a huge win. I'm trying to make higher multiples to get the most out of this bull market, because this kind of volatility we've been experiencing isn't going to last for forever. And it's the volatility that's so interesting. Things swinging way too low before they then swing way too high. And so at $3, though, it was highly interesting. But remember, we just showed a chart where it had this double bottom. Like Ronin had a double bottom. So they go up, and then sometimes they start to get some momentum and seemingly take off, only to come back down. Now, often on that second leg won't come as cheap as we are here. In fact, we'll be looking at the Ikomi chart soon, and you'll see a double bottom. And then it then takes off and goes up from there. So buying here, your chances that it continues pulling back more than this is like 70%. And so even if you are buying blue chips, your chances that you're going to be able to get this cheaper than $11.30, the chances are pretty high. So for me, it's a wait. Let's jump right over to the next one, which is Celestia, which a lot of people have been talking about.
Okay, is it Celestia or Celestial?
Celestia.
Okay. Lestia.
Yeah, TIA.
Yeah, I can find it with an L on the end, but not with just A. Let me have a look at coin
Try
market.
just TIA.
Okay.
That comes up. No. Huh. I don't know. It's on the major exchanges. Coinbase,
Yeah.
Binance.
Strange, isn't it? Sometimes it
Yeah.
right. All data. Yeah. So it's a little bit okay. Reject those. There we go. Okay. So as far as all data goes from November till today, that's again not that much data, is it? It's only a few months, sort of 2.5 months, nearly 3 months. Trend is up in that time. Started off very flat, and it's been bullish out the gates, but that's when everything else was bullish. So it seems to be following the broader macro cycle with the big, Bitcoin, the big players are coming off, and this is coming off with it. So I'm just trying to see what might be a proxy for this, and whether it's trading with it or whether it's trading against it, whether it's outperforming or underperforming. It seems to be fairly correlated with the majors. So if that's anything to go by, possibly a bit more of a correction before it goes back up. Lots of support around 14. You can see why it's bounced there, but the reason for that is because it took a few days to break through it. But this is very, very micro. This is because we haven't got a lot of data. It's very difficult to make predictions beyond a few days. As a rule of thumb, the longer the data you have, the shorter, obviously the longer the prediction that you could make. But if you have like 5 years worth of data, you might be looking at 2 or 3 weeks worth of a projection. And if you've got 3 months, you might only be looking at, say, 2 or 3 days worth of projection, a week at the most, but you certainly wouldn't want to try and go further than that. So I'd have to sort of be cautious and say wait, because I don't really know. But if I was forced to take a position, it would be a long position. I'd buy it because the market is going up. So that would be the only thing that I could base on taking a position. As 14 is support, the overall trend is up. It's coming back in a correction. It's bounced off it with quite a nice bounce, but that's only 1 day. So, given it's a short-term chart, that could look completely different tomorrow and the view would change. So I wouldn't read too much into that. But it could be one that we need to come back to because it's interesting for other reasons. So I'd like to hear a bit more about the fundamentals in that regard.
Yeah, Celestia has been being talked about a whole lot, and that's one of my red flags. I literally don't like to buy things when a lot of major channels and networks are talking about it. So it's already gone 8x. Now, generally, the market hasn't done that well. I know Crypto Banter has been talking about Celestia a bunch, and oh yeah, we're buying Celestia, and it's like, cool, you guys do that. And I generally counter trade them. Like, I'm not going to buy after he's been talking about something for a while because it's gone 8x, right, already. And so the chances that it pulls back are too high. Like, there's a lot of hype as new strong projects launch. And a lot of times their prices go up a bunch. And then they fall off as the narrative then changes to something else. So Celestia and Manta are both being talked about a bunch. And it's like, oh, and people feel like because they see this climb, they're like, oh, it's just going to keep going up for forever. And maybe it does. I mean, the general trend over the next 12 months is a bull run. So how is this going to do over like the next 9 to 12 months? Probably really well. But what happens in the next 3 or 4 months is the question that I don't want to buy it at $16.50 only to have it correct down to $6 before it then goes to higher numbers. And the probability that it does something like that is maybe 50%, which is just too high for me to then bet on it, especially with such a high market cap already at 2.6 billion. It's fairly new technology. Like one of the comments too, and you see this from Bro, because Manta recently launched, and it uses Celestia, right? Manta chain itself is extremely buggy. So Manta has a lot of hype, but the actual use, like it's new. Think of Microsoft Windows when it first comes out and it's buggy and there's mainnet issues and they're trying to sort it out, but it's got a lot of hype and, it's just new technology. Will Celestia and Manta be extremely used in the future? I don't know. They might be. This is a direction that technology has a strong chance to go. But I don't want to buy it after it's just 8.5x. I want to buy something that's cheap, that I really, really like, that a lot of people aren't talking about. One of our family members, William Jan Van de Berg, asked us to look at Bumper. Bumper is something I actually just bought more of. So we'll definitely add in. We got a number of comments, Spores, OMI analysis, please. We'll definitely be looking at OMI. We'll have time to look at your guys' suggestions too. So that'll be fun. Let's look over at Beam. Beam is one that was being covered in a lot of major channels. Is like, oh yeah, Beam's the greatest. And then you'll see what happens as it then kind of, the narrative focuses on other things.
Yeah, so here it goes. That, let me just check that's up to date. Yeah, so okay, what we've got is a base, a downward trend, first phase of a new trend. There's a bit of history there, which is good, but I don't know. We've still got these falling highs, so I'm a little bit cautious about that. Personally, I think, well, this strong move here and this sharp reversal is something that still needs to play out. So I wouldn't be personally, I would be waiting here for sure. Where I see some good support is around this 6 cents area. Resistance made a base. That's a really nice consolidation before this very sharp move. But that's almost too sharp. It's almost like, what on earth happened there? When things go up too fast and it's just because of one announcement, the market gets overly excited. Somebody might have known it beforehand and they're selling into it, which it looks exactly like what's happened here. So I think it needs to consolidate around support around 6.5 cents, which I think probability wise could be a good place to have a look at it from a long position. I don't particularly like the chart as much as I like other things. So, I'd prefer to look at something or trade something else. As I say, but I look at everything as an individual, as though I can't trade anything else. And what would I do with this? And I think what I would do is wait for the moment, see if it gets back to this 6.5 cents, where I would like to put a buy order in just to see how it trades there. And if it comes too far into this area here, I would just bail out. But it may well get lifted up with everything else when the correction is over in the broader markets. So it may be worth having a look at it at the 6.5 level. But for the moment, I still think it's in this corrective phase. So I'd have to wait.
Yeah, 100% agree. So that shows a lot more history than it's showing right now on CoinMarketCap. I think maybe I think Beam was a rebrand of Merit Circle, or maybe I'm not understanding that right. But it got really juicy there, but then the blockchain gaming hype got it really pumped up, and I just don't like to chase green candles. And so that bottom that was showing on your chart, this chart isn't as good. Maybe CoinGecko, we can see the full history better. No. So your chart's showing more history. Yeah, I just want it to correct down back to where it was. I mean, it's fairly high market cap, billion. How sound is their technology? I don't know. I don't know what kind of usage is going to get. Probably decent. A lot of people talking about it, but that's what happens when the price goes absolutely crazy. So it was at 0.4 cents. It went all the way to to almost 3 cents. It probably, even though it doesn't reflect it on this, probably did hit 3 cents. So I had a massive run up and then usually a correction down, and often it will break to the downside a little bit more. And I like to buy cheap. So I'm not buying a lot of blockchain gaming projects right now, unless like maybe there's a juicy pre-sale opportunity that the market cap is interesting, or something else where there's something interesting about it. Because the recent run up we had, I don't like to buy expensive. I was buying blockchain gaming when it was dirt cheap, and I'll buy it again if it gets cheaper. And there are some things getting cheaper, and I'm just waiting till some of the hype settles, because that frequently happens, and then it's good to buy again. So for me, this is just a wait. Let's take a look now at OMI. We talked a little bit about it before, kind of a lot about it, but let's look at the charts for OMI.
Yeah, so OMI, there was a bit more data that seems to have rolled off somewhere. Maybe I need to look at another chart, but the big support was here, and it was coming into that from last week. Really needed to do the opposite of this and go straight up from a technical point of view before I could say buy. So it's below the support level, and I have to wait. I can't buy into something that's making a new low. If anything, I would be selling into something that's making a new low. Now, what can happen is the market does this and then has a sharp reversal out of it, which is the first sign that it's recovering. So I need to see that. I can't just invent that. That's got to be something that the market does. Whilst a technician may be tempted to buy something just because it looks cheap, that's not how the discipline works at all. So it has to be a wait for me. At the very least, it needs to get above at least one of these moving averages. One's a 60-day, the other's the 200. That's the first step to recovery. Now, there's some great levels along the way. Where, for me, things become more interesting as a base would be through this 3 zeros and 78. And I will always miss the low. So just bear that in mind. The low is not something I look to buy. And unless there's a big panic, like, I was saying 48,000 on Bitcoin, just because there was resistance up there. And yeah, it went over, it went to 49,000. But that was like in a phase that was more indicative that we're getting close to reversal. So the risk reward was a good one because it hit it and then it reversed down very fast. So I wouldn't normally go against that on a short-term basis until the market properly settles. And as you can see, actually Bitcoin did settle and then it went lower, which is more that's a safer way to trade a reversal. So for the moment, I'm kind of in, it's not something that I would enter in. I would just look at that and go, at the very least, I would wait for it to show something that's indicating some big moves are coming back in. So some people are seeing really great value, and we get some kind of reaction to the upside to say things have changed. What could possibly be happening is the market is anticipating some piece of news that they just need to get out. And once it's out, that will be the clear out, and then it will go back up. So I wouldn't mind seeing a sharp move followed by a bounce that would tell me that that this trend is over. But for the moment, you can only trade what you see in front of you, and it's a wait for me.
Yeah, this chart, let's be very clear. This chart looks scary right here. And here's the scary part. Right there. When it wicks down below like this, it breaks through that support. It'll often keep going. And so that's why Paul cannot buy at this point with the way that he trades. He can't. That would be breaking his rules. My rules are different. It allows me to buy here. But did I throw all my available capital into it here? No. Because there is a chance it wicks down, and this ends up really just being the bottom, and some people just panicked out. And then I end up buying right at the bottom. But I'm fully aware that it could keep breaking down from here. There was a point in the history where it was dancing around this number, where it wouldn't go to what they said 30, so below 0.1 cents was a strong resistance. And then all of a sudden here it wicked down below, and then it's mostly been below that price. So 0.05 or 0.06 or 0.055 area has been another strong resistance point, or support point, I mean. And I hope it breaks below that more, because what I often find is that things swing too high during the bull run, and Economi's price swung too high during the bull run, to crazy numbers. Economy was one of the best performing tokens in the last bull run, from its bear market woes into the bull market highs. But I like buying cheap. And so sometimes prices just swing too low, or much lower than they should. And I hope they swing even lower than this. That would be like Christmas. So I'd love for it to break down further, and it might. I look at this and I get excited. I don't get sad. Sure, I have a whole lot of Economy, and I don't care what it does. Well, it's not that I don't care what it does in the short term. I hope in the short term it gets even cheaper than it is, because I would like more. And then in the medium term, I feel pretty good about this one. The medium and the long term, like really good about this one. So in the short term, the best thing that could happen is it gets even cheaper, and it might. This chart is suggesting it really wants to. So we'll see how this plays out. Justin says, McDonald's gave me the buy signal on Big Macs. They're currently buy one, get one free. That's funny. All right, let's take a look at one chain and see what it's doing in the charts.
Sure thing. Okay. Let me just get over. So, yeah, we haven't looked at it a while, have we? Yeah. Okay. So what we've got here is, this is still in a basing phase. We had the reversal here. Then there was that news. Was it around here? No, it could have been. Yeah, and I think it was around here. Then the correction. It's basically going sideways. But this is building up to a base. And my feeling is that, looking at how long it takes and symmetry. So if we take this as the center point, how long it's taken to make this part against this part, it should really be moving up soon. It has broken this trend line, which was a nice thing to trade against on the upside. It worked for a bit. Sadly, it's failed. It's gone through it. So, that couldn't hold it. So we would change that to a dotted line to show that it's no longer holding support. But we have got this one that's coming in, and it's got fairly close to it. So that is next to a lot of support. So it's bounced many times close to this area and close to this trend line. I wouldn't like to see it below, or too much below, this line. I think for me, this 16 cents area is where I'd be letting it go and say, okay, it's gone too far. I don't mind rebuying it if it goes back up, but I'd be in capital preservation mode. But that's different for everybody. But yeah, for the moment, it looks like a wait, just because it's going sideways. I would have thought it would do quite well in the current market, because what we've seen is a really nice move up and then a correction. Now, during the move up, people might be thinking, well, there's no point me hedging my bets, because the market's moving in my direction. But what we've actually seen happening is the market's now correcting. So something like this that gives you protection, the whole business model is protecting you from this type of move. It would make a lot more sense to be buying it. So it's raining and you're selling umbrellas. That's where you should be making some money. So maybe there will be a little bit of lag before it goes back up. We shall see. But certainly the macro environment does support it. We just need to see some reaction from these supports to get it into a nice smooth upward trend, which is what we've seen in some of the other markets that have been pretty good. So for me, it's a wait, but definitely we've got to keep coming back to it, because it's getting close to some crucial support.
Yes, it is. I love buying this lower trend line that you were just showing actually on your chart. I love it on projects that I like. And Wand Chain is a really strong project. Its market cap is really suppressed during this bear market. Their bridge, I use their bridge all the time to move stuff between Binance Smart Chain to Polygon to ETH. It's really easy to use, does a great job. It's so smooth and I trust it. So Wand Chain is also a strategic partner of this channel, as you know, because we give away Wand Chain when we do our Friday live streams. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. There won't be a Friday live stream this week. The week after, I might be able to do it, but I will be traveling for the next week. So we won't be able to do next week, Paul. I'll be in Tulum with poor signal. So going out on some adventures. So contacts that I know rented a house and a yacht and invited me to go. So I told them no. Of course they said yes.
Yeah. By the way, for some reason, I was conflating Wand Chain with Bump because I saw somebody wanted to look at that.
Yeah.
And in my head, that's what I was looking at. So that's why I was saying what I was saying about the business model and all that stuff. A lot of the time that we've looked at it has been in a range, just waiting to break out.
Mm-hmm.
And it just still is. So, I think we just got to be a bit more patient.
I think Wand Chain will be one that solidly comes into the narrative in the future. And when it does, it's going to pop. And they're building this nice support level. And this lower trend line for me is super juicy. Their market cap is really juicy too. It's a $40 million market cap for such a strong project. If you've seen, I've had on the CEO, I've had one of their chief scientists on, and their CMO, Tim Louis, has joined us before. And he's going to be joining us when I get back into town, probably in a week or two, to share some news that's coming out with Wand Chain. And so, yeah, great buy at a fantastic price. Overall, I like buying cheap, and it's really cheap right now. Market cap is really juicy. If it went to a $4 billion market cap, that's 100x from here. All right, let's take a look at, that was the last of those suggestions. We have a bunch. I wanted to get to this one. MVE says, OMI is the worst stable coin. The FUD levels on OMI is really high, and people just worry, right? So a lot of the current people in crypto came in 2021. And so they're upside down on a lot of their positions. And it feels frustrating. I remember that feeling because I came in 2017. And until 2021, I was upside down on most all of my positions. I was definitely upside down from my 2017 positions. But even I stuck around and I bought during the bear market. But guess what often happens when you're buying during lows? They hit further lows. And so literally I was down a whole ton on even what I had dollar cost average into. And it can be a pretty depressing place. But then the bull market came. And 2021's bull market was a little bit interesting and didn't go as high as I think it could have. And even with that, though, it massively, massively went up from what I had put in by a ton. And so you're waiting for, as I like to say, the rains to come in. And the rains aren't here yet. You saw just a tiny little taste of that with blockchain gaming and a few other things. But that wasn't new people coming in with new money. That was new money from existing people coming in. And so that was just a fraction of the type of money that will come in when we have lots and lots of new people coming in with new money. And you'll see new money coming in from existing people too. And so what you saw was just a tiny little taste of what's going to happen. You will see a lot of things go 100x. Some things go 200, 300, 400x. A few will go 1,000 or 2,000x, and it will just blow your mind. We're not there yet. So it's normal to feel like you're feeling MVE. That's how most people are feeling. And that's why most people sell at those prices. They do not buy more. And I buy more with my strategy. I buy more and I just patiently wait. And I hope it goes down more so I can buy even more cheaper. All right. Let me star the ones that in order that they came in. We need to look at X Blue Storm asked us to look at Riot Racers. Now, I like it when you give us some fundamentals of something. So essentially NFT drivers, racetracks, and race cars. And another one of our family members was asking for Riot Racers as well.
Okay, what's the code? Is it just
Riot?
Oh, here we go. Yeah, cool. Sorry, sometimes it's just as simple as the name. Yeah. So it's not that one. Let's try that one. Riot Racers. Well, what a smooth chart. Very smooth upward trend. This there was one that we looked at that was very, very similar to this, in that when it started a direction, it just carries on in that direction. Obviously here it was down and now it's going up. So whilst it's following that upward trend, I'm a trend trader. I would want to go with it. So yeah, for me, it looks like a buy. The big resistance points come in around 1 cent. No, just a bit below there. But for the purposes of this and allowing a bit for volatility, it'd be around 1 cent. Which is also where it reacted very strongly to the downside. So I would expect some form of selling at that point, because market was definitely, holding a lot, because the way that went down, that was bad news. So yeah, the main point is it's moving up. I don't know much about it. If you look at the symmetry again, the way it's gone down is very similar to the way it's gone up. Be nice if there's some form of acceleration. I mean, that's not a guaranteed thing at all. But sometimes the market repeats like that. Steady she goes, really. Only if it were to break, I'd have to have some level that allows exiting out, parachuting out of a position. Some pretty good support around here, around 2.5 cents. I think that would make sense to get out if it broke that. So that would be my level where I'd exit. Or certainly I'd be looking at it very closely for signs of a reversal. Would be nice to see a lower, if it does break it, and I'm not saying it will, but if it does break this trend line, it may give us a different rate of incline for the upward trend. So what I mean by that is, if it was, say, it came down to here and then went sideways and then went up again, we could redraw the trend line at a slightly shallower angle that might be a bit more sustainable long term, because it usually isn't sustainable for the market just to keep going in one direction. Normally happens to the downside, to be fair. But maybe this is one that will just keep repeating, and we'll see it go up. So it's a very interesting one to look at. For the moment, it looks like a buy.
Nice. All right. I was just going through it while you were covering it and just getting everything checked for us, and we missed Chris Ashbay's.
Yes, we did.
We'll take a look Chris. At there in a minute. So Riot Racers, interesting. I was looking at it. This narrative is kind of fun, and I'll show the website. The website gives us a little bit of a feel. So this chart, it absolutely got devastated since it came out, and it came out at the end of 2021. And I like to see this kind of price devastation. It gets really, really interesting. If this is correct on the market cap, extremely, extremely low market cap. That means if it goes up from here, like the fully diluted market cap, if this is right, is under 1 million. So it's an extremely risky point. But if it gets some traction, it can be a massive gainer if it gets some traction. Now, it asked me to connect my wallet to this when I came to here, and I'm like, hell no. I would need to know for sure it's 100% safe. So here's the website, and it asked me to connect to it. It went over to race and then to rent. So this narrative has been out there since last bull market. There was Zed Run, which you could race these different horses. So you could own a horse and you could race it and you could earn some things. This narrative is one that kind of works. Will they get enough traction with this during this bull run? Maybe. They have some good looking cars, so that's fun, right? So look at these, and it looks like you can rent these from other people. I don't know what it means. 10% free, 10% paid, 30% free, 30% paid. and it has something here that I don't know, 30. And so that's pretty fun that it has some different good looking cars. I think this kind of narrative of being able to race against each other on the blockchain and having different vehicles that you can do different upgrades to, I think that kind of game will do really well in the future. I think in the future, they're going to be much, much more sophisticated than this. So the question is this in a good spot during the next year, during this bull run to do really well? It might be. It might be. If I were just, before I went all in on this, I would go to YouTube and I'd search for interviews with the team, and I would try to learn as much about the team behind this as possible, trying to get a feel for the credibility behind it. I like that they've potentially really stuck around during the bear market, because they launched right during the metaverse pump, and it's all the way at 84 cents. It's down over 99%. I like that. It's probably gone through a good chunk of its vesting. I also want to check out how active are they on Twitter. Let's see. Well, they only have 6,700 followers on Twitter. That's a little bit of a concern. Okay, looks like they're also trying to do something with drivers being like androids, and I guess some of them being people. I would just want a better feel for where they go and how much traction they're able to get. Their Twitter does not have a ton of traction. Although if their price starts pumping, you will see the traction gain. Oh, that's pretty cool. Super villain of a driver is no joke on the tracks. Custom one-of-one driver is made exclusively for ludicrous level ROC members. Okay, so they're doing some cool things. That looks like Nicolas Cage. Yeah, we'll give you 60 seconds to guess the influence. That's funny. They're doing some cool things. Looks like they're fairly active on Twitter, and so this might be the kind of high risk bet that I sometimes take. Cool. And it is high risk. I mean, but if it went to a market cap of $1 billion, that would be 1,000x from here. So I couldn't throw huge money at something like this unless I really, really knew what was going on. Looks like you can get it on QuickSwap, and it is dirt cheap. So still would be some more research to go, but I would rate this as a probable buy. I would not be connecting my wallet up to it till I know way more about it, unless I was connecting up, a dummy wallet that I created that doesn't have hardly anything into it. Let's take a look at Flare. My apologies, Chris, missed that.
Yeah, it looks like we've been busy with this one before. Base, breakout, consolidation. That went on just a little bit more than this triangular move, but that was a bullish breakout expected. Interesting the way it was sitting on this 1.7 cents level. So for me, I would be watching that carefully if it comes back to it and breaks it. But overall, it's still in an upward trend. It's found some resistance at 2.4. May struggle to break that given the macro position. But overall, it's recovering from this downward trend. So we're getting this, if we move to a kind of weekly chart where it smooths it out a little bit, you see that's where it started. We got the V low, and now it's going back up again. So I see no reason why long term it couldn't go back to 3.2 cents. But for the moment, I think we get a little bit of a consolidation just because that's what the market's generally doing. But overall, the trend is still up and looking good. So it's in the buy camp. That's the main upward trend. As long as it stays above that, for me, it's a buy.
So Flare is associated with XRP. And XRP has a chance to do things that such a high market cap project shouldn't be able to do, and yet it probably can. I would say one of our family members has made a very compelling case to me on why XRP will be the financial railways of the future for not just US currency, but most currencies, and for transfers between them. And that over the past 8 years, all those railways have been being built and everything, and the switch will probably come over in the coming year. And if that's the case, XRP's market cap could go 100, maybe even 500x from here, which for such a high market cap shouldn't happen. And I can't say, it's too bad I don't have him on the channel. He could explain to us exactly what Flare does, because he knows Flare really well too, and he's very articulate. But their market cap's at 700 million. And normally I don't invest in such high projects unless I can see that they have a strong chance to do 100x. And if XRP does crazy numbers like 100 to 500x from here, I don't see why Flare can't. And so it's a $700 million market cap. That would take it to 100x from here would be a $70 billion market cap. If XRP goes into the trillions in their market cap, Flare could go to a $70 billion market cap. So it's interesting where you can get it. You can get it right on Coinbase. You can get it on KuCoin. So it's available international and in the States pretty easily. So that's all good news. Probably it'll get left alone by the regulators after the US regulators lost to XRP for the most part in their lawsuits. So should be fairly safe that way. Now it has pumped. It has gone 2.5x. It's up 2.5x from where it was. Sometimes it will correct down a little bit before it then runs up further. And that's what I'd be looking for if I were going to make an entry on this. And I might if it comes back down like that. And it would be kind of like betting on the XRP play, but just something that's at a smaller market cap that maybe does higher multiples if XRP goes crazy. So I'll, yeah. So Flare, good suggestion, Chris. All right, let's take a look at OZK numbers. Look amazing, Justin says. OZK. Or ZK. I don't know what this project is. Ooh. Okay, their chart isn't very old. So that's
what by numbers, what's meant by the number, like their business model numbers, or
Justin, you might want to clarify that. What about the numbers? What numbers look amazing? Sailing, here we go. Sailing is the person I was talking about. Says Flare brings DeFi and contracts to XRPL. As far as what Flare does.
should we look?
Yeah, if you have your camera on and everything, Sailing, I can send you a link. You can jump on with us. Just I don't know much about the project. Yeah, it's, all I have is their website here, right? Anonymously connecting ETH and Bitcoin to keep you secure. I mean, that narrative sounds interesting, but like who's behind it? I don't like it when you can buy now directly from their site. That's usually a red flag to me. Doesn't have to be. Like there's some projects that you can do that still end up doing good, but it's always a little bit concerning for me. Mostly scam projects have that. That doesn't mean just because they have it doesn't mean that it is a scam project, but most scam projects have it where you can buy it directly from the website. Yeah. So, I mean, they are on CoinMarketCap. So that at least is a good thing, but it's fairly new and there's not a lot of details on it. Mostly buying it on Uniswap. Cool. Let's look at some of the other ones. What else we got? ANDR just got put on CoinGecko yesterday, so we're not going to have much of a price history on that, but we can at least take a look at the website too.
Yeah, I think that ANDR, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not even seeing that on CoinMarketCap. Unless I'm missing something. Am I missing something?
ANDR. I see Andromeda on CoinGecko.
Okay.
Yeah, and it just got listed. So CoinGecko, it's on. Andromeda, the second one.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Price. Max. Bar chart. Yeah, sorry. There's literally no data.
Okay, read that chart for us, Paul.
Yeah. Give me a coin and I'll flip it. But I guess one could look at the fundamentals, which is probably why it was being asked a view. So sorry, I can't fill in a technical gap whilst you do your research, your quick research to have a look at it.
I went ahead and sent Sailing a link so he can jump in and he could tell us more about the fundamentals behind Flare.
Mm-hmm.
So he may be
Great.
joining us in just a sec. I sent
Cool.
it to you on Discord. Is buying crypto directly from the VV app a red flag? I can't wait till you can buy it directly from the VV app. And that'll probably happen. All right. Sale is jumping in with us, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about Flare and maybe even a little bit about what's going on with XRP, because he is way deep in the research on this. Jumping in with us, and he's going to tell us a little bit more. Hey, Sale, we got you there.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Fantastic.
So let me just tell you a little bit about Flare. I mean, Flare is an interesting project. Flare is a fair drop project, right? So they actually, if you owned originally XRP, they dropped it to XRP owners, right? A portion of it. The rest of it is fair dropped, okay, and you can stake and earn, okay. So the fair drop had 30 drops. I think are about 8 in right now every month. Okay, if you have wrapped your Flare, you will receive an allocation, right? 1/30th according to the Flare that you have physically wrapped. This has been depressing and holding down the price overall for Flare. Now, in the meantime, they are an EVM sidechain to XRP, which makes them very attractive for any Ethereum type project to actually link in and work with them. And they've brought DeFi, which they're developing, and it's going very well, to Flare, and they have just partnered with Google. There's a lot going on with these guys right now, right? So those smart contracts are going to be very, very lucrative. And I'm going to tell you that I am invested in them, and the Flare drops are really amazing, right? And any of the community that wants to get into them, it's something to look at. It was just a buy probably about a week ago, of somebody who bought 8 million Flare for the Flare drops. Okay, literally. Okay, and they're making literally like $3,400 a week, right? It's crazy, right? The potential that's in this right now, and it's gonna go for a period of time. So anyway, I think it's as an adjunct, and what they bring to the XRPL is very, very important. We're also seeing, smart contracts through Evernode, who, they wanted originally to launch on XRP, and I was very excited about that. Thought it'd be great. Instead, because the node operators didn't approve it right in short order, they have launched on the Zahao network alongside it. Right. However, it's another great project, right, that looks to be supporting that. Right. And we know how important smart contracts were for Ethereum and for crypto as a whole. If you think about where potentially XRP can be going, or XLM or any of these others, these smart contract plays open up a whole additional world for them. And when we talk about XRP, we talk about the idea that it's moving. A lot of people say they're moving money. I've always said they're the number one pick for me for bank to bank internationally. But the other thing about them that's really important is it's not just moving money. We have to change our mindset. It's moving value, okay, across the world at the speed of light. Okay, just like we do today with an email that back in the 80s we thought, oh, no one's ever going to do this. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what's important, right? Moving value, and that value can take all kinds of forms, and we'll go into this, later with the group. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that.
You're very welcome, guys. Look, I got to jump. I was on something else, and I saw you, and I
Thanks for
that's
jumping
really cool.
in, Phil.
All right. Talk to you later.
Yes.
Cool.
I love how deep he dives into the research on these solid projects, and his background is like 30 years in high-level banking, so extremely credible about what he's talking about.
Very interesting.
Again, I missed, as far as going in order, Eli's suggestion. Take a look at the bump charts.
Yeah, I was I conflated that, didn't I? Bump. So bump, I haven't looked at it since last time, and as I was saying before, whilst looking at the one chain chart, it should really be doing quite well now. It's coming back towards this trend line, which has held it. So I'd hope that it would hold it. Now, perhaps this is the last part of the move before it starts to rally, but the business model is hedging your positions. So we've seen a run, we've seen the market go down. Maybe we want to see a bit more of a tumble in the major markets to make people think that they need to hedge it. It's all part of psychology. But as far as the chart goes, it's pretty much still in this range, perhaps forming a base. Big breakout is that line there for me, at 10 cents. The closer it gets to it, the more excited I am about the way the chart's developing. For the moment, obviously, we can see it's in a correction, but the first step would be this high, because that has been resistance before. It's been resistance here. It's been resistance as support as well. So it's resistance, support, resistance. So a bounce from here, first tripwires at 6.5 cents to buy. And then if it gets to 10 cents, it would look very interesting. But for the moment, clearly it's in a correction. It has some support coming up. I want to see how it reacts on this trend line. I would allow it a little bit of a move through, because the liquidity won't always hit a level exactly and then reverse. You've got to give it a little bit of wiggle room in the more thinly traded products. But there is a limit to that, so I'm not going to just let it keep falling through. I would bail out. I'd have to have a bailout level, and that bailout level for me is around 2.7, or just a bit above. So overall, it's still a watching brief on this, to wait to see how it reacts, potentially to the trend line. One positive on it is, if this is a base, then once it does start to trend, it will look very interesting. But yeah, for the moment, it's a wait.
Yeah. All right. Where is the button? All right. Well, for me, it is a buy, and I actually did buy some just recently. The price was just too juicy to pass up. So I love buying something I like on this lower trend line like this. And some people say, what if it breaks down below? And I'm like, please do break down below, please. Because would I love to be able to buy it at 1.85 cents again? Yes, I would love to be able to buy it back there. I doubt that'll happen, but I wouldn't see it as a bad thing if that did happen. So please break down below it, although I really doubt it will. Which is why I'm buying now. If I thought there was a good chance it would break down below, I like buying even cheaper. But their market cap is 3.7 million. This is one of the ones I like that could be a total home run, like not out of the park, but like all the way into the sea. So it'd be like hitting a home run in Yankee Stadium and knocking it into the bay, right? Like something like this could go to a market cap of 3.7 billion or a market cap of 37 billion if it really catches on. And so that would be 1,000 to 10,000x from here. Now, the second question, important question that I don't know the answer to is, will it? I don't know. Like Axie Infinity, I had a strong feeling that Axie Infinity could do well if they got traction. And boy, did they get traction. And it did exceptionally well. Far greater than I realized. It went 3,000x from where I bought it. And I did not buy at the bottom. So, yeah, Bumper could do exceptional from here. Their website, they've updated. It's looking really good. They moved it over to Arbitrum so people can take these positions with lower fees. Will it get traction? I hope so. DeFi has been out of focus for a while, but allows you to take a hedge against it. And actually, one of the sources, like Manu, when he joined us last Wednesday, he joined us after the interview with you, Manu from Definity, who runs Definity. I then asked him again about Bumper, and he said what Bumper is doing is amazing. And he's got 20 years of trading options. And so like he is one of the people that I really want to know from on what they think about it. And so I did connect him up to speak to the Bumper team like a couple months ago. And after he spoke to them, yeah, he said, wow, what they're doing is pretty incredible. And so the question then is, does it get traction? Does it get main adoption and use? Because if it does, the market cap on this goes absolutely nuts into the billions and maybe tens of billions, which means the price from here goes absolutely crazy. You are seeing just 41% of the tokens in circulation. More of these come into circulation as rewards over time. I really like this one. So when I saw it hit these prices again, I just had to buy more. And am I going all in on this one? No, but I have a pretty sizable position in Bumper that if it does what it could do, I mean, Bumper alone could make me tens of millions of dollars. Cool. I hope that happens because I know a lot of the community members feel the same way I do about Bumper, and it's a risk they feel is worth taking. It's a risk that I feel is worth taking. For me, it fits within what I look for. I look for lower market cap projects that haven't really been discovered yet and hope that they get enough traction that they get use. And if they do, well, then their market cap really pumps from where it's at. And so when I say I'm passing on other things because they've already gone up a whole bunch and I'm making options, like I'm buying other things that are nice and juicy, well, this is one of the things that are nicey juicy. I also bought some more Definity. We don't cover Definity while Paul is joining us because, well, it would be talking his book, right? Paul works for Definity.
Yeah.
But in full disclosure, I did buy more Bumper and I did buy more Definity. All right, let's take a look at the comments. Boy, I've done a fantastic job at getting reviews all out of order today.
We've got a comment here about the bean chart being wrong. So I just wanted to maybe pick that up because I had a quick look at.
Interesting.
I mean, I had a look at the back to the chart and then I had a look at what was on CoinGecko. The problem is if there's lots of projects with the same name, it's difficult to know which one is meant, really.
Because there's two beams. There's beam like the one that's 68, number 68 on the market cap, which is the one I thought he'd be asking about. There's another one that's number 837 on CoinMarketCap, which is like, okay, so I assumed he was talking about the higher market cap
one would. Yeah.
So maybe he wasn't.
Yeah. Okay. So
this is so maybe he's talking about this one that is at that price.
Yeah. Well, that's I mean, that's still in a downward trend, so I would be careful with that. It needs to break through this support, and I mean, there's a bit of hang on, what on earth is going on with this data? Let me just check it's okay. Yeah, okay, so that's fair enough. We've got quite a good history there. Very nice reversal, but lots of resistance coming up. I think it needs to correct before it goes back up again. So I would be waiting on that for me.
Yeah, that definitely, the way you look at charts and the way you buy is totally a weight within your parameters. For me to really be able to decide, like, the price is nice and juicy. Let's see, let me bring up my chart. It's not as juicy as it was. It's actually pumped 3x from these lows. What is this beam? I don't know what this beam does. Uncompromising privacy. Now, I love the privacy narrative. I love it a lot. US regulators and even European regulators have taken total aim at the privacy narrative and been very effective in that. They prosecuted that one project, Tornado Cash, like the developers of the project, they prosecute them. I don't know that that's legal, yet they did it. And like, I imagine if that makes it to the US Supreme Court, that's going to be overturned because code is speech. Now, if people use that code maliciously, the people using the code maliciously can be prosecuted. But this is, I think, even settled law in the US. And yet US regulators went and arrested the developers of Tornado Cash. I mean, this is why you have judges as a check on, essentially the police, who sometimes do what they want to do rather than what is constitutional by the US. So and the problem is then you have to be able to afford the lawyers to take it all the way to the Supreme Court before it sometimes then your conviction gets thrown out or your arrest gets thrown out. So in the meantime, that has massively stifled the privacy narrative tremendously. And it sucks because I had some money in some good privacy narrative apps that just withered away because the bear market was too long and they're just too worried. I still like the privacy narrative a lot. I'm a little bit gun shy to invest in it because I think pressure from the US and Europe and other things is going to be really heavy on this and for the foreseeable future. Because even Trump be president of the US, and I don't know if that can happen, but even if that did happen, I think still even under Trump, they would continue to go after the privacy narrative that way because it just competes. Like, when you give governments certain powers, they don't let go of them. And when, the terrorist stuff happened, everyone was like, okay, let's give the government powers to like check everybody's account. So they came up with this anti-money laundering and anti-terrorism stuff. So everything has to be KYC to anti-money laundering. And once you give the government that kind of power, they want to know where your money is at all times, every bit of it, so they can see. And so getting that back, when you give up rights like that, getting them back is very hard. And it usually doesn't happen without a massive legal fight. So, I like the privacy narrative. I just would rather invest in blockchain gaming, which isn't going to cause like a fight with existing power structures the same way. So that's why I'm not investing in like privacy stuff, uncompromising privacy. I mean, their app looks cool and I love this. I just am gun shy to invest in it. So for me, it's definitely a wait. All right. Tornado Cash Dev looking for donations to fight the case. Yeah, like it is financially devastating when you get something like that happening to you. I wanted to get to Uno Shaw's comment. Let me make sure I'm doing this again out of order. So let's look at Marcos's question about Spores Network. He asked about Riot Racers as well, but Spores, we haven't looked at Spores price in a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Spores Network. Let's have a look. Okay, so yeah, it has been a while. Good time to pick up on it. We had this upward trend, obviously, from when we were looking at it last time. Broke through this resistance, which is great. Nice double bottom base, but it's come back in for a consolidation. So not this time, but it's been doing okay. It's been doing very well. If we look at these bases or these lows, that's a higher low, so we can draw that line in. That was quite an aggressive trend line, so it's not one that is, terminal if it breaks it, because the market can come back to a more sustainable angle of trend, which is what it's doing here. What I like about this is it looks very triangular, and that's normally a good sign for a breakout further down the line. So what I would suggest is waiting for a breakout for me to the upside as it starts to move through 1.4, 1.5 cents to show it's breaking out of this consolidation, then to go with it, because the next point would be this 1.7 and then back up at this 2.1. But overall, if I had to take a big picture view, whilst it's above, let me just adjust that a little bit. Whilst it's above this trend line, it looks like a long-term buy, and it has made this double bottom. It's just consolidating below the resistance of the breakout point. So it had run up quite nicely to that breakout point, which was here. So a little consolidation is fair enough. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 goes before it actually breaks through, but I don't mind this because it's just consolidating. The ranges are getting tighter, which means that we should see some form of a breakout, perhaps in the next couple of weeks or so. Now, that should be to the upside, but that's why I'm going to allow for the breakout trigger to be to the upside, just to make sure, we're not caught, or I'm not caught in something that wants to go a little bit lower before it then comes back up again. So for me, it's a long-term buy. I could be persuaded to short-term buy it as well, because it's in this consolidation, but I think I'd if I had to give a position right now, I'd say it's a wait, but it's at a really interesting point.
Yeah, I completely agree that it's at a really interesting point. For me, it's a buy at this point. And I'll share why. Here we go. So overall, Spores is a launch pad, and as the market really takes off, launch pads do really well. And Spores has a lot of connections in a lot of the Asian projects, as well as strong connection within the Western societies as well. And so I think blockchain gaming is going to go big in the Western societies. I think it's going to go massive in the Asian markets. And they have some of the best connections for some of the Asian projects in Vietnam and Korea and just all of Asia. And so their market cap is just 1.3 million. Their fully diluted market cap is 6.4 million. So still only, 21% of its tokens in circulating supply. But I think this has a lot of upside. One of the bigger launch pads that's gotten a lot of momentum, their market cap's over 100 million by now. And they are launching good projects through that. But I just think Spores is one of the more undervalued ones, because if its market cap goes to a couple 100 million from here in the bull market, well, that's over 100x. That's what I like, is something that I think has pretty good chances to survive into the coming bull market and has over 100x potential. So Spores for me is absolutely a buy. All right. Fantastic suggestions. Let's see. This is interesting from Uno Sean. Hey, Rain, I did a lot of research on Manta and decided to go the route of investing in the main meme coin on Manta chain called Kuma, based on the Manta founder's dog. So this is a little pattern that has emerged over like the past 4 months of when a new chain is getting some traction, going for the main meme coin on that chain named after somebody important's pet. And it's been an interesting pattern, and it in some ways becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy using what's called the greater fool theory. Now, investing using the greater fool theory isn't my best or my favorite. Have I done it before? Yes. I don't do it very often. But sometimes the pattern becomes so abundantly clear that in the short term, it's easy to make some good money, but it's only a short-term swing trade that you're in and then you're out not very much later. And if it swings down on you, well, you still often need to exit because it's just a short-term trading strategy. Am I taking these trades? No. Have I noticed the pattern? Yes. Do I suggest other people take the trades? I don't suggest that, but I don't blame you for doing it either. So that pattern at some point is not going to hold, and it's kind of later in the stage. The later in the pattern it is, the riskier it gets. So will you do okay on that? My guess is you will, but we'll see. It's a risky play. Jasmy will have lockup in this upcoming quarter. What do you think it could mean for the price action? I don't know. I've only followed Jasmy somewhat loosely. I do hold some Jasmy. And, it's founded by like one of the former heads of Sony. It's a Japanese project, and Japan is very pro crypto. And so you have some of the executives from Sony building something on blockchain. My guess is they're working with a lot of technology giants to bring blockchain to the corporate world in ways that the corporate world wants it and needs it. So that's why I took the Jasmy bet. I don't know what a lockup and what the lockup looks like and what that might do for the price. I'm just in Jasmy for the long term, though we can look at the charts. Do you want to pull up the chart on Jasmy?
Yeah. Let's have a look. So I think with a lot of these things, it depends what the reason is for the lockup. Why is it happening? Is it a positive thing? Are you just seeing it as, could it be viewed as a negative thing? The fact that it is happening is now in the price because it's not new news. It's I know it, so it's there. So I think what will happen, the market is reacting to it now. So if this is a good up-to-date price, let me just switch to a daily just to make sure, then it's actually reacting fairly well. So overall, the market looks like it's in a range. Now, it didn't manage to break through this 0.8 of a cent or 80% of a cent level here, which is the main breakout point. So it's kind of failed just before there. Look at that gap there, which I don't like, but that must have been because this news was coming out. So I want to see it through there for me to be comfortable that it's formed enough of a base and it's not still going to be trading around in this range. But the implications, I would say, obviously, you guys are people who know much more about the fundamentals behind why something like this might be happening. But I would get to the root of it and think, well, does it look like this is happening for a good reason? Or does it look like it's happening for something that would make you feel uneasy? And then I would see how the price action reacts. Obviously in the short term, it's just happened. It seems to be okay. Now, if it starts to trade up, then that I think would be a really good sign. But taking all that away and not knowing anything about the news that's been announced, I still say that I need this to break, this level here, close to this resistance, because it's absolutely huge. And until it's done that, I'm not going to get massively excited. I wouldn't want to put a whole lot of risk on it until that trigger's gone. But I can understand why people might want to do it. I mean, it's holding in a range. but for me, it needs to be moving smoothly upwards, more aggressively, and breaking some significant levels before it's indicated it's made a base for me. But I'd be interested in what you think. There is some news out there that I was having a quick look at, during some other parts of the show, but I'd be very interested in what you think.
Yeah, I wish I knew more. Like, obviously, I'd love to have the executives from Jasmy come join me on the channel. My Japanese is non-existent. I imagine they speak great English. I'd like to know better what's going on with them and what they are developing. So I'm just making some assumptions based on who is running it and who's behind it. And those assumptions, even with as high a market cap as they have, I have invested in Jasmy because I think the corporate world really, blockchain brings about some efficiencies the corporate world is really interested in. Here you have one of the largest corporations in the world, Sony, some former executives of it, building in Japan has been very pro crypto. That's why even way back in like 2015, Cardano was launching in Japan, because they were some of the first to put out the regulations and regulatory clarity for blockchain. So I imagine big things are coming in. Most people don't know what's happening, and so it's not priced in. And so I like this nice rounded bottom that's like, this is what I call when the price is boring. When the price is boring, I like to buy, especially because it went up all the way to 0.77 cents. It's come back down to under 0.5 cents. I think this is a pretty decent buy position. Maybe get lucky and it goes even cheaper, but I'm not dissatisfied with that price for a buy. And do I know what's coming with this? No, it's a bit of a gamble based on who the players are. But one of the things I look for in projects is I look for a solid team. And former executives of Sony, these are major players. And what are they doing? I can't say I know, but I'm pretty sure they're not wasting their time. And they have all the corporate connections you would need to make something big happen. And their market cap is only 242 million. If I'm right on this and they're building something tremendous, then that market cap can go into the tens of billions of dollars. And so that's the kind of price increases I want to see. So I like this one. Thank you for bringing it up. Mark Wilson says, or Render. Render we haven't talked about for a while. Render got a little too hyped. Everyone was talking about it too much. I just can't buy when like all the major channels are talking about a project. I won't do it because they then suffer corrections. But now that most of the big channels aren't talking about them, maybe it's starting to get interesting. Let's pull up the chart on your screen. We'll take a look at it.
Yeah, Render's one that I've liked actually. Just trying to see if I've got my chart here somewhere. Let's have a look. I can get, yeah, here we are. Yeah, so this is what I was looking at. Basically, the trend is still up, so I would go with it. It broke out $2.54, came back up, then had another go at it. It's trending up. That's the trend rate. Yeah, it's above the moving averages. For me, it's still a buy. Now, this area here is a consolidation. So there is some risk it will come back towards $2.93, that sort of area. But I would also put into the mix that if you look at what's happening for the chip stocks, they are blasting. Look at that. Look at the way these are going. Meta, look at the way that's going. Well, not it's a chip stock, but Nvidia, let's have a look at that. These are flying. So it's still a very hot play. And I wouldn't stand in the way of it. So for me, I'm still bullish on it. I still do like it. And I think it's still a buy.
Great point. Yeah, thanks for bringing in like the chip stocks and what they're doing. That's crazy. So Paul buys at different points than I do. And I don't think Paul's wrong on this. I think Render from here into the greater bull market, he likes to see that the momentum has turned around. And I think it's pretty clear that it has. There might be some kind of pullback before it runs up. It's already experienced some, and this is at least at a minimum what I like to see. Now, the reason I'm not buying Render is because the market cap is higher. I'm looking for projects that have a stronger chance to 100x from here. Could it 100x from here? Well, that would take it to $140 billion market cap. It could, but like, is it probable that it's at least going to 20x from here? Probably. I would say probably. And so this is solidly in the blue chip category. And when you have massive amounts of money, a lot of times they don't want to take the risky plays, because for something to be able to have potential to go 100x, that also means it usually has a greater chance of failing. And they don't want to take those plays. What's Render's chance of failing here? Slim, very slim. And when you have massive amount of funds, I mean, Wall Street would jump at the chance if they had a guaranteed chance at a 20x that they could roll millions of dollars into. They would. Now, there's no such thing as a guaranteed chance. And it's just my opinion that the chance on this is really, really good that it will do 10, 20, or 30x. So for a lot of big money, those are extremely acceptable numbers. And so probably it'll do really well from here. I mean, thankfully it pulled back from when everyone was talking about it way back here when the metaverse plays went absolutely crazy. It went all the way to $7.80. And it pulled back. And I was talking about Render when it pulled back tremendously like this, and it was extremely juicy. It has since pumped a bunch and retraced. And from here, it might keep running or it might pull back further. But from here to the greater bull market, it's probably got some big gains ahead of it. I don't know about in the short term. I don't know. But in the medium term, I would imagine it does really well. Marcos says, you guys are outstanding. Appreciate your thoughts. Oh my. I love that name. We love Paul. Great insight. Thank you. Yes.
It's very kind. Thank you. Thank
you so much for joining us. Manu told me that other channels have tried very hard to steal Paul away from us. We're grateful that you join us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Well, that's everything. Paul, you're amazing. And yeah, it's going to be fun to see what this coming 12 months, how they play out. I mean, I've been waiting for this time period for a couple of years now, and it's not quite here. It's almost here, and it is getting exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes you've got to be patient. Come on, we've had such a good run. There has to be a bit of a pullback, but it ain't over. We just need to wait for this recent move up to get a few people to get out of their positions, and then we'll get ready again. On Bitcoin, I reckon we could see between 32,000, 36,000 as a pullback, and maybe it goes sideways and quiet for a bit. And then, I don't know, I've seen a lot of noise from Donald Trump. Could he get in? If he got in, oh my God, things would explode. And that's probably what's going to happen. So I there's a lot to be bullish about. So, let's see. But enjoy your break next week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks so much.
All right, Paul, thank you so much for joining us. Yes, reminder to everyone, it will be 2 weeks. I will be leaving tomorrow for Tulum and go on some adventures. I will. I have some videos that I'll be releasing over the next number of days. That you notice I've been recording more short videos. They're easily digestible, and most of them are on mindset, but sometimes I talk about specific projects. And the reason I spend so much time talking about mindset is I realize that's what blows so many people out of crypto, is just having the long-term vision and the patience to let it play out and how to think about things. And, it troubles me that 95% of people have poor to mediocre or even disastrous results in crypto. So what is it that the 95% do wrong? And what is it that the 5% do so right? And how do you help people do more of what the 5% do so that you can have the kind of life-changing gains that are available here? And they are life-changing. I mean, I was even somewhat newer to crypto. I made a lot of mistakes 3 and 4 years ago and, 5 and 6 years ago. But yet still, even with those mistakes, I did enough things right that 2021 was life-changing for me. And I learned from some of those mistakes so that I make even less mistakes now. Like even back in 2020, half of the stuff I invested in went to zero. Why? Because I used to invest in even riskier projects. Believe it or not, once upon a time, I invested in meme coin level risk projects. And I don't anymore because I just saw how the numbers played out. And that's why it's experience that tells me I don't generally take those trades. Would I never take those trades? Well, as we discussed, sometimes I see patterns like what emerges. And so I take a short-term swing trade like that, just kind of for fun and for some extra gains. But I realize that the risk is very high. Generally, I don't touch meme coins. In fact, I haven't actually touched a meme coin in a couple of years now. Why? Because there are better bets. And there's this thing in economics called opportunity cost. And so, like, say I could go to the casino and I had a 51% chance of winning if I took long-term bets over the next 2 years. It would seem like, well, why wouldn't you take that? Well, because in crypto, from the time point we're at right now, I feel like I'm taking bets that have an 85 to 97% chance to win. And if I win on them, I don't just win double my money. I'm making 10 or 50 or 100 or 200x. And so this has as much of my funds as possible. And even in my own personal life, I'm spending very little right now. Why? Because the opportunity cost is so high. Yes, I'll buy some nice cars and stuff with this bull run. And you might ask, well, if I've done so well, why haven't I bought those things? I could have, but the economic side of me is just like, man, you know, that Lamborghini isn't going to cost me $700,000. It's going to cost me $7 million to $70 million in opportunity cost. So why would I buy that now? Now, after we go through this next 6 or 12 months and a lot of those gains are made, yes, probably I'll make some decisions to do some pretty crazy things and buy some pretty crazy cars. And yes, it will seem extravagant, because it will be extravagant, but that is what successful crypto trading can get you in your life. That's all I got for you today. So watch for those shorts. Maybe I'll record some things while we're out doing some fun adventures this next week, and then upload them when I get back to the hotel, because reception's pretty spotty out there. If you've been out there, you know. For everyone, you know, I've got a little, oh, let's see. I thought I still had the old Rainmaker rap in here, or the old Rainmaker song. I don't. I have it somewhere else. I'll play it for you sometime. So this is going to be the regular rap. We'll see you soon.
Came into the space, chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit right before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always made the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling the parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong, cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future. future, learning the past. Amazing time fly by, years going so fast. This game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I'll follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, but time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.